What?
Why?
No, I have to share it on the
Oh,
podcast.
Okay, I'm ready.
But I was like, that's how you know I'm supposed to be here.
Yes.
No, it was weird.
I'm ready for this.
No, Doobie is scary. I was like, what the frick?
All right, say boo boo.
Okay.
We're already recording. But
Are we? Okay.
Yeah,
we are.
Wow. Okay, do I...
Just move closer to the mic.
Okay.
So move the whole. Yeah, there you go. And then kind of just.
I don't want to break anything.
No,
You break it, you buy it, right? Don't tell him I'm here.
Put the headphones on so you can hear it, and put it on. There you go.
Oh my gosh, I look so ugly in headphones.
Stop.
Whoa,
Can
my
you not?
God,
It's only one side of your
this
face.
looks so good. This sounds so good.
it's amazing.
I'm on the radio.
Andrea,
Welcome to the Late Night Anastasia Show.
Can you hear me?
Great.
Okay.
And me.
Oh my
Can
goodness.
you hear me?
Everything
You
is
hear
so
me?
crisp.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You
It
sound
is
like
amazing.
Kim Kardashian
I
right
am
now.
not Kim Kardashian.
So crisp.
So crisp.
I love it.
Ooh, sweating.
I love you. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy I'm here.
haven't
I would
seen you
only
forever.
drive 30 minutes on a school night
Stop it.
For us.
for you guys. No, literally, I texted Doobie. I was like, only for you. Because I think the podcast is great. So,
Aw.
We love you.
yeah, you guys are doing great things.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Where's my bread? Just kidding, you guys. We can start.
God.
This is the best intro ever.
Listen,
I didn't eat dinner for this.
it's so impromptu. We didn't get to cook. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay, we're all
you
fasting.
can just. I'm not, but you can take me out to dinner
I'll take it.
after.
Yeah,
We
we
can
can
do
do
that.
that. We could go
I
to
can-
dinner.
I'll
be
I mean, I'll
hungry.
eat veggies, but yeah.
But you're hungry, right?
Yeah.
I can
I'm
eat.
already hungry.
After
plan.
this,
Yeah.
It's gonna be like
Well-
way past my bedtime. I was thinking like
Annie.
another day, but I got this. Okay, let's go.
Okay. Ready?
I'm ready.
Right. So, welcome to the Breaking Bread podcast.
Oh my God. I hate when you do that intro. Please don't
I'm
do
getting
that.
We're
Why?
gonna start again.
I
I'm kidding, I'm
literally
kidding.
thought I was like on
No, no, no.
NBC 6.
No,
Sounds so good.
no. So, all right. So, Annie, welcome. Yeah, I'll stop.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay. Hi, Annie.
I'm like, who's talking? Because
Let
that
me
does
do
not
the-
sound
I'll
like
do
Doobie
the
at all.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll do
okay.
it. Okay, yeah. So we have Annie here, finally. Hello.
Hi. I
She
made it.
is here. We've been talking about interviewing her for quite a while now because her story is quite the story.
Well, I can't wait
So.
to hear it because I've never heard it before.
Yeah.
You've
Oh,
never
no.
shared the story with me. So
Yeah,
this is
know.
going to be my first time hearing it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot of first time,
yeah.
people's first time
I
hearing
think so.
it.
I think you
know?
recently started opening up about it
Yeah.
like last year, right?
Yeah, Doobie kind of forced me to share it.
Oh, I love how she forces everybody to share their stuff, but won't share her stuff.
Right. Yeah. So, but she's like, oh my God, you're crying? What about? I'm like, I don't even know you, but sure, I'll cry.
Okay,
with
I
you.
need to share that story of when we
Yeah.
met, which is why she's saying this.
Okay.
So we
Sure.
met. So we go to the same church. And so we met at this. We went to this volleyball hangout, and it was my first
Mind
time
you,
going there.
neither one of us play volleyball.
I'm so bad at it.
Yeah. I was like, let's go look at the waves.
And I'm like, I just want to meet people. I was during that time, I wanted to meet people and
Yeah.
put myself more out there in community. So I met her that day, and I don't know who else we were talking to. It was like a group of girls, and we're talking about breakups, and I'm like, yes, we're talking about breakups, because I was kind of going through it at the time. And then she started talking about her breakup, and then she started crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's crying. And I'm like, but like, what happened? And then she just like opened up, but
No, you always say this story wrong. I didn't. I wasn't
okay, fine.
crying.
You say it. You share it.
So I feel bad. I don't remember who it was. But
Oh, it was
someone
our other
else-
friend crying.
Yes, someone else
Yes.
was crying, and
True.
I said, "I've been there. Like I've been in that type of relationship."
remember now.
And that's when Doobie was like, "Oh my God, what? Like, how did you get through it?" And once we got to talking, we realized we had such a similar story, like a love story that just went really, really bad, kind of really, really fast.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't crying.
Well, anyway.
I cry all the time, but not then.
Our friend was crying. I remember that. And then I remember now. I'm sorry. And the way you came off was very, like, you you sounded very confident in like talking, like you weren't crying about it or anything, and I was still kind of sort of going through it.
Yeah.
And that's when I asked him, like, how did you go, like, how did you get through it? Like, how are you calm now? Like, how are you just talking about it and it's fine?
Yeah.
Because I was still kind of like crying about it still.
Well,
So-
which is so crazy because I never thought I would get to that point. And then to, you know, be around a girl, Doobie, who I didn't even know her, to kind of see that in me of like, oh, you're so calm now. How did you do it? I'm like, did I even do it though? Like, you know, it's kind of crazy.
It's crazy that other people see it, but you don't see it.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, so I was driving here, obviously, to the podcast, and I'm at 17th and US 1. And I had this like wave of emotion because I remember like 3 years ago, I was driving home from my ex's and I was going the opposite direction. I was stopped at that same intersection and I was crying my eyes out, like bawling, sobbing. A cop pulled up next to me, got out of his car, handed me tissues, and told me to drive safe. And then I realized, like, how full circle. Like, the last time I was at this intersection, I thought my life was over. And here I am now, almost 3 years later, like, doing a podcast. So I'm like, that's God just working everything full circle in, you know, his timing, his life. And he uses certain, I don't know how he does it. It's just, he's so good, you know? So that was my like full circle moment I wanted to share. Because I'm like, I'm supposed to be here. No, I didn't either until I was driving and I'm like, you know, I was on the phone and I'm like, oh my God, I'm at this intersection and I remember and now I'm going to do a podcast on it. Like, what?
But you never told me that story about.
Because I didn't remember. And then it just hit me when I was there at the intersection turning.
That's insane.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So crazy.
Wow. Okay, I'm really happy you're here.
I know. It's crazy.
Wow. You have a lot. You have a lot to say.
I have a lot.
One thing I can say from that first time that we met, I remember we went to eat pizza afterwards.
Yes.
And then we talked, and I don't know, somehow we clicked. It was like love at first sight.
It really was.
It was like I just felt like a click with her.
There was
I'm
a
like,
spark for sure.
Yeah.
Soulmates.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know this girl. Like, why am I talking so much to this girl? And we went, it was so funny because I'm like, Annie, so where are you from? She's like, oh, I'm German.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh, so do you like beer?
And my response was, no.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny. But yeah, we talked a lot that day. It was like for like 2 hours, like nonstop, like going back and forth. I'm like, no way. And I was just asking her questions.
Yeah.
And you said, I remember that you opened up to me that day, even though we had just met that same day.
Mm-hmm.
And you would say things of like, oh, I haven't shared this, but I did this. Oh, I haven't shared this, but this happened to me. And I was like, how is this girl opening up to me so much? How is she trusting me so fast? And I'm like, how am I trusting her so fast? So I'm so grateful that you're here because you've become one of my favorite people ever. And I always talk about you. You can ask Andrea. I'm like, Annie this, Annie that.
I mean, she's become one of my favorite people too.
Oh my God, I love you both so much.
And anyone that knows you loves you. But I think to me, you are a sign of strength. Like you are the true definition of strength and of resilience and how much you've been through and how far you've come that now it's like you're this butterfly. It's amazing to see. So I want you to share a little bit about your story.
That's a huge compliment, first of all. Thank you.
I always tell you this, though.
I know. I know. I keep telling me. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Tell me more.
No, but seriously, it's an honor to be here sharing this story because it's kind of, you know, I think that we're always healing because life always happens, right? Mm-hmm. So we can be, you know, healing from one thing and then life is going to throw something else at us. But like every time you heal, it's a stepping stone to the next step. And I feel like this is part of my healing journey too. Yeah. You know, like just because I'm not crying over something or I'm not upset about something or thinking about it 24/7 like I used to, like this is still a healing, like part of my healing journey because I've never fully spoken out loud about it to people who I don't know who's going to listen to this, like, you know, so subscribe.
Go on Patreon if that's what you're going to listen to it.
But can you like ask me a question? Because I would have no idea where to start. It's so much.
So where are you from, first of all?
So I'm from Miami, born and raised.
Mm-hmm. Would you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
My childhood was great. Grew up with my sister. We were swimmers, did a lot of after school activities, you know, family vacations. Everything was super, super perfect, you would say, like that whole white picket fence, stay at home mom, dad owned a company. So the beginning, like it seemed great. Everything was great. But now looking back, I can see things that have happened to lead me in the types of relationships that I've chosen to be in. So it's kind of, hindsight is 2020, growing older. My parents got divorced. My mom, both my parents struggled. And so looking back, I know, they kind of did the best that they could with the situation that they had. But it really, took a toll on my sister and I in the sense of our self-worth and, our confidence and things like that. And I guess I looked for someone to save me, like a guy to just save me, because I didn't want to deal with the reality. So I was like, let me just jump into a relationship and, not think about anything else. And it's going to be this fantasy fairy tale. And it was like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So do you think so what you're saying is that because of what was going on in your household with your parents, you decided to look for anything that was not anything, anyone that was available to kind of like bring you under their wing.
Yeah, and to kind of just like take me away from what my family was dealing with it. Right, my reality, because I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to accept it. Yeah. And everyone was just kind of going through it on their own instead of like us coming together and being, hey, how can we move forward? Like, even though our family's breaking apart, how can we move forward together? And I know that's so kind of unrealistic. Like in a divorce, you don't really do that, right? Like that's in a perfect world divorce. Your family can kind of break apart while coming together, I guess. So since everyone was moving on by themselves, I was like, well, I don't want to do this alone. Like I need to run to something.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about heartbreak and like failure and things that happen in life, breakups with friends, breakups in relationships. Fast forward to all of that, like from, you coming to that conclusion of like, I don't want to be home and I want to find someone and like feel some type of security in that sense. How would you say that all of those relationships have led you to God? But first, let's talk about your like a breakup that led you through breakthrough.
Wow. That's good.
What would you want to say about that? Would you say your breakup led you to God?
It's so crazy because the word break up, like I don't like that word because like I broke down. Like I did not go up anywhere.
Yeah.
It was I broke down. I was with someone, it was very unhealthy from the beginning, but I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like. And so for, I don't know, about 5 years, it was very on and off. We should have probably never been together. But like you talked about the failure, I was just so like, I need to make it work. I need to make it work. Because if I didn't, then all of those, thoughts about myself of like, I'm not worthy, I can't be confident, I don't deserve love would be true, right? Because if I failed at a relationship, then all the negative self-talk would be like, see, hello, of course you don't deserve love. Look what just happened. So I just, that relationship was one of those things where, when you hold on to something so, so tight, you end up breaking it. Like that's what I did, I think. And in that time I broke myself. Like I said, it was super unhealthy. So I would pray all the time, like, God, get me out of this. But like my prayer was, God, make it work.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah. So that was my prayer. It was like, I'm going to pray this to you, God, but I'm also going to pray like, this is how you're going to do it. And God was kind of like, absolutely not, like this is my way. And it's, I didn't expect it to look like the way it did, but it's kind of like I knew God on the way up, like Dave Ramsey says, but I got to know him on the way down. And when that breakup, that final huge clash of like physical fights and just horribleness, I was like, God, if I'm going to survive this, like you have to get to work. I didn't tell him how to do it. I didn't even tell him what I needed or wanted because I didn't know. But sure enough, like, here I am, and this table kind of, dictates that he listened and he answered.
How long ago was that?
That was December 2020.
So
Wow.
from December 20, well, that's
Yeah.
It's
nothing.
like nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. It's like I tell myself, you know, if I have a moment or if I have a day, and Doobie taught me this, she's like, you were in something so negative for 5 years. It's only been 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, you got to give yourself grace,
Yeah.
you know? And I think one of the things that I prayed for is I know they say, you know, when one door closes, another opens. And I felt like I lost everything in that breakup, like friends, family members, just work, everything. And, you know, I would pray, like, God, I just want good people in my life, good friendships, and, you know, the community, like meeting Doobie, meeting you. You know, my VU crew just helped me stay above water.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy because you know, we talk so much about the savior complex, and I think that that's something that we that like I know that I struggle with, like that I tend to be, or I used to be the person that always wanted to save somebody, like save the significant other, right? And
Right.
it was like, oh, okay, like what we call missionary dating, right? Which is like, okay, well, I'm gonna bring them closer to Jesus, and I'm gonna
Right,
bring them
right,
closer to
right.
God and stuff. But it's crazy to see the other end of the like of the scope, which is the person that wanted to be saved instead, right?
Right.
And like how you got yourself into the abusive relationship that you got yourself into based on what you're saying, that it got physical, and only to get to a point where the only person that could save you was God.
Yeah, which is so crazy too because he was Jewish. So like we didn't even have that connection. I mean, yes, this you know, the same God, but it was just, you know,
You
were
not the
unequally
same at
yoked,
all.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, I was like maybe his whole family will become Christian. Like what?
Yeah.
Like, you know. But yeah, and it's kind of crazy too because you just said it before I did. Like, oh, you were in an abusive relationship. And I think I had struggled so much with saying, yes, I've been in an abusive relationship because in my lowest moments, not only was I the abused, but I was also the abuser. And that was really hard for me to accept
Yeah.
because I knew it was not me. It was not who God called me to be. But when you are in such a black hole, like you scratch at anything,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah.
know?
It's true what they say that when you're with someone that is toxic or that is negative, you become that person.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bad character corrupts good character. So
Yeah.
I'm sure at one point or another you're like, how the heck did I get here?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure a relationship doesn't start like that. Like
Yeah.
at the beginning. At the beginning, everything is honeymoon
Well,
stage.
which is
you
so
know?
crazy because in our relationship, I was like, oh my God, do not date this guy. Like red
Really?
flags everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? You ignored the red flags.
Totally.
Did he ever tell you like I am this way? Don't
I
date
remember like we were out and I remember one time he was like, we can't keep seeing each other because I don't want to hurt you.
Oh.
And I remember
That's a
being like,
warning.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, what, 22 years old? And I was like, okay, thanks for letting me know. So proud of myself for like being peace out, bye. I literally just peace signed. And I went to walk away and he grabbed me and he was like, but like we can try, like let's try.
Oh,
And so
geez.
then I was like, okay, of course. Oh my God, he wants to try for me.
You're
like
gonna change him.
yes.
Mhm. You're gonna be that girl that changes him.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
the
never
biggest
forget
mistake
that night.
women
I
can
remember
make.
like exactly where we were. I remember everything. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what he was wearing, and that was in what, 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So fast forward from December 2020 to 2023, how would you say your healing journey
Oh
has
my
been like after that?
goodness. It has been non-linear, like a roller coaster. But a different kind of roller coaster, I guess. It was like where I got on the ride without, someone else putting me on it. The first 6 months, I could not get out of bed, which sounds
Wow.
like so, but I was in like physical pain. Like I couldn't breathe well. My back was killing me. I was always sore. I was so tired. And I went to see a doctor for it. And my doctor said, you've been living in fight or flight for 5 years. Now that your body can finally rest, it's feeling all the take on all the, crap that you tried to be so like, you know, tough about.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the hardest because I'm like, if I'm just laying here, I don't want to be here. Like I felt so worthless again. Like it was that whole thing of like, see, I told you, Annie, like you're worthless.
Mm-hmm.
You failed at this and now you can't even get out of bed and you're back living at your dad's house. And it was just all these negative things. And so the days that I could get out of bed, I remembered, you know, the relationship was very on and off. And so every single time it was off, two of my best friends, Chelsea and Chloe, told me about VU Church. And I'm like, I have nothing to lose. Like, let me just go.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God we were still wearing masks because I would go by myself, have to like drain out my mask from my tears in between, like throughout the sermon. And then I would leave because I'm like, I don't want anyone to see me. Like, I was hysterical. Yeah. Like, again, people would hand me tissues, like tap me from behind. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Like, bye, you know? And so I would start going to church and then this is, you know, kind of crazy too. And again, it's just how, looking back, I see how God was in all of it. I was going to move to my mom's. She lives in North Carolina. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. Like, I hate Miami. I have nothing left here. And I'm going to move. So I told her, I packed my stuff. And I had filled out like a connect card at VU like 2 weeks prior. Hadn't heard anything. So I'm like, you see, God doesn't even want me to be involved in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so the day before I was supposed to leave to drive to North Carolina, I got a text from my leader, my crew leader. And she said, hey, we're so sorry. You know, my partner was sick. You know, we weren't able to text you, but we have crew tonight. Would you like to hop on?
Wow.
And I was like, sure, you know, like I have nothing to lose. And it was Zoom. It was a Zoom crew. And so I logged on and everyone was just, we're so happy you're here. And it was just like, you know, and I broke down and it was just like, I told them everything. And it was finally like a group of girls that I had never met. I have never talked to. And I just completely lost it. And none of them judged me. They listened with intent. They prayed for me. And after the meeting, so many of them texted me individually, like, hey, I'd love to get coffee with you. Hey,
Wow.
you know, I would love, like, are you okay? Do you need anything? Like, do you not want to be alone? Whatever it is. And so I never left. And because I had prayed, like, God, you need to replenish my community. And so, you know, I made best friends, like sisters in that crew, like Ashley, Natalie, Maria, and, you know, Kim, Camille. Like, I could name all of them. And then God was like, well, you need a Doobie and Andrea too. So here we are.
Wow, that's crazy how God picks us up like at the right time, you know?
Yeah.
You asked, like you prayed about it, and then the day before,
I know,
you get the call.
And I was so ready to leave. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. Like, I was like, I'm done.
What are you gonna say?
I know. I'm like, why are you looking at me like that?
It's
Andrea?
crazy because we recorded a podcast episode where I was just talking about how I also wanted to move to Boone, North Carolina.
Oh my God, stop.
To leave everything behind, leave my past behind, my story behind, start from scratch, to start fresh. And it was like I had to face something and confront a certain person in a situation. To realize that I needed to forgive that person and be able to stay planted in Miami at VU also.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of those things that God was like, you can't move yet because there's something happening within Miami and you need to stay planted.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're sitting here is just like another confirmation that it's like, man, how is it that the first thing you want to do when you're going through something is run away from it.
Run away.
When it's really when you stay planted that you actually grow. You heal and you grow. And so I'm sitting here in awe because I didn't know your story at all. And Nebraska was always telling me, you need to know Annie's story.
Oh my goodness.
And now you're sitting here saying that. And I'm like, we literally were just talking about this.
That's crazy. And it's so, you know, because the way you said it too, like, I want to move, I want to forget my past, leave it all behind. Sounds like a great plan, right? But like, if you don't deal with it, it's Sorry. Oh my God, I cursed.
That's fine.
Okay.
Say
it.
It's gonna follow you.
Yeah.
You know?
take yourself with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I, after I made these, I was going to church, I was double dipping.
Yeah.
I was listening to sermons twice a day, serving every Sunday, because just being around the people who like really cared about me and wanted to help me heal and supported my journey of healing, despite how messy it looked,
Yeah.
was just so incredible. And it helped, I had always looked for that self-worth and confidence in a guy, but I found it in these women, and it was rough. Like, it got really dark.
Yeah.
And I think Pastor Rich really kind of saved me when we did the mental health sermons, because he, said, being on medicine is okay.
Yeah.
And there were times where I was like, I don't want to be here. And I just remember telling my dad, like, I'm done. And he would just sit in my bed with me and cry.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And it's just...
You said that you didn't work. I think
I didn't work for a year.
Wow.
You didn't work for a year.
I couldn't work for a year because, I said, I'm obviously in like the cycle of abuse. Like, I was in an abusive relationship in high school, like super physical, super bad, had to be sent away, like really bad. Then I was in another, toxic relationship. Then I was in this abusive relationship. And I was like, I'm going to keep doing this same stuff if I don't really dig deep and work on myself, because you teach people how to treat you.
Yes.
And I was clearly teaching these people, like, you can hit me, you can disrespect me, you can push me, you can, cheat on me, whatever it may be. And so I was blessed enough to not have to work for a year, and I just fully focused on myself. I worked with a life coach in Bali, which I know so many people don't have that like opportunity to do, but I had gone to school with her in high school, and she, we worked together for several months, and she just really helped me like dig into my psyche, dig into like the me as a child, you know. And I think too, remembering and reminding myself like the little Annie is still inside me helped me heal so much, because it was like, if I saw this little girl go through what I went through, I wouldn't be hard on her. I wouldn't get mad at her. I wouldn't get frustrated with her. Like, I would pick her up and hug her, And so that helped me so much too.
Yeah. It's kind of like how you would talk to your best friend, right?
Yeah.
Like the advice that you would give your best friend and how you would comfort your best friend if they were in that situation.
Yeah.
It's so easy for us to be so hard on ourselves, but if it was our best friend in that situation, how would we show up for them?
Right.
And so it's kind of like, that's how you should show up for yourself as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that that's something that that I learned in our friendship, that when I would have like a rough day, I would tell Annie, I'm like, Annie, I don't know, and she's like, Doobie, just have grace on yourself. Like, healing is, and she kept telling me healing is non-linear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it should be linear. Like,
Yeah,
what
right?
the heck? But I would tell her things and I would vent to her, and she's like, it's okay, it's non-linear. But the fact that it comes from a place of healing from your end, and the fact that you went through so much, it like there's this like weight to that, like a good weight to that I take that advice to heart, because you've been through so much that it's like, man, like talking to the Annie now, it's like, I didn't know you before.
Right.
But it's so funny because I'm like, I wish I knew you before. And
oh my
she's
God,
like,
you would
"Dude."
not like me.
She's like, I was so bad, you wouldn't like me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for you to even say that, and like, you've come such a long way.
No, it's so crazy. And like, we're not even scratching the surface here, because I don't want to scare your listeners, like, because it is super deep, it gets super dark, and like, we can like invite me back and I'll come, but
you can be as open as you want. There's no
I know. And but yeah, it's just so crazy how much you can change, but again, like, not by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, with God.
Yeah.
I couldn't do this by myself. Absolutely
Did
not.
you always believe in God?
I always believed in God. When I got into my relationship with my ex, he was very I mean, he would say things like, I'm God. And I'm like, oh my God.
geez.
Like while looking in the
Narcissistic.
mirror. Yeah. And I'm like, get me out of here, you know?
Yes,
And
master.
yeah, I'm like,
Yes,
okay.
Lord.
Right? I'm like, he's like, don't call me daddy, call me Lord. You know? Like, I'm like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Did you guys live together?
We lived together.
Okay.
So we lived together, and I was like, I want to be Jewish, because that was how we could be together, is if I converted to Judaism.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, perfect. But I think the thing that was so hard for me was that I, again, wanted to make it work so badly. And so he's like, meet with a Rebinson, go convert. But he was so not religious at all that I'm like, why do I have to do all of this if you're not even, like, if you don't even care about this, you know? And so when I was in that relationship, I would kind of only think of God when I was like
Mm-hmm.
getting, when it was physical, when I would get kicked out, when I would get left behind, like left somewhere. When he would have these like anger moments of just like, I don't know, pouring champagne on my head, or like just doing these crazy impulsive things. But then I would get mad. I'm like, God, if you're seeing him doing this to me, like, why am I still in like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And when we first originally broke up, I was so mad at God that I told my dad, I'm like, I don't believe in it. Like, whatever, like, we come from apes, it is what it
Yeah.
is type
Yeah.
thing. Because at the end of the day, I thought, like, I ended up getting myself out of the relationship. That last night was just the worst night of my life. My best friend had to call the cops. It was just horrible. The very next day, I had to go by myself and move out all of my things. And we lived in like a 3-story townhouse. So it's like I had to walk up all these stairs. And, right at the top of the first staircase, his mom would just sit there and glare at me. And then I'd go up to the next staircase and like pick up these heavy boxes and, just be like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't show emotion, don't show emotion. Like, And I remember I walked into the room and all my, like, not all of my things, but a lot of my things were broken. Like, my shoes were cut, my glasses were broken. And like, if you are someone who wears contacts or glasses, like, and someone purposely breaks them, that's the meanest thing they can do to you.
You're like, I can't see
I'm like,
anything.
yeah, I'm like, and I remember just looking and just remaining so calm. And he walked inside and he was like, let's act like adults here. And I was like, but me act like an adult, and I didn't say anything, but
But you broke my glasses.
yeah, I'm like, I can't see.
Yeah.
And then I remember it was like 15 boxes. It was so much. He left. His mom stayed just like glaring at me. And it was just the weirdest thing. And so I left and I broke down. I was sobbing and I was screaming at God. And I was like, why? Like, why? I'm always alone. I'm always alone, alone, alone. And I think one of the lessons he wanted to teach me too was like, you got to learn how to love yourself, and you got to learn how to love being with yourself by yourself, And now I'm like, I mean, you guys know, you invite me somewhere and I'm like, no, I have a date with myself,
Yeah.
And I think that was something that I needed, because if I didn't learn how to be by myself, how could I ever learn how to be with somebody else?
Yep.
You know?
You had to learn how to be whole on your own.
Yeah.
Did you jump from one relationship to the next? Was it like there was no break in between? Like you'd break up with someone and then a month later you'd be dating somebody else?
No. It was never like that. There would always be like good time in between. Because at the same time, like, I'm a double Pisces. So like, I'm so emotional. Like, if I like you, I'm like, so when are we getting married? I like so get in my feels. So like, I'm very particular in like who I'm with. So I never jumped around. I never slept around. Because again, like, I'm very emotional.
But what's the difference between those times being single to now? Like, what made you realize that it's like, I need to be by myself? What's the difference?
well, I'm not single.
No. Wait, we'll
I'm
get there.
so confused.
What made you decide to take that gap of those years for yourself, like between 2020 to now?
Oh.
Or no, wait.
Okay,
So,
yeah, because that sounded different than what
Okay,
you
no.
said.
So sorry, because I'm thinking it and I'm not really saying it correctly.
Okay.
So you've
it's
been
okay.
in English.
You don't speak English.
Yo no
English
hablo
is your
inglés.
second-
Un poquito nada más. I always say that I'm like, yo no hablo inglés. The past previous relationships before that really bad relationship.
Right.
You said that there was a gap there of being single.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the difference between those times of you being single, between those gaps to this last gap? What made you realize that you needed to be alone now and not then? Did that make sense?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
this last breakup, I was like, I'm going to be alone forever. And that's what I want. Like,
Okay.
I was so hurt and broken. I'm like, I can never be in another relationship. And I was so afraid. I was so afraid of guys. I couldn't even talk to a guy.
I remember.
Yeah, I was terrified. Like
Where you
some
can't even
guy
have a
would like,
friendship with them.
yeah, and like guys would go to give me a high five, and I'd be like, like don't hit
Defense
me, bro.
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you cool? Like, I'm just trying to say hi." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, hey, like, but let's shake hands, you know? Like, that's not a high five."
I remember when I had met
Yeah.
Annie, she was like, she would get anxiety of
Yes.
like even thinking of the idea of going on a date with someone. She's
Yeah.
like, I can't. I'm not there. I'm not
Yeah.
there.
So
And you
for-
really thought you weren't gonna get out of that.
No, I never. I
feeling.
mean, it was 2 years, and I was
Mhm.
like, absolutely not, never. And I was so okay with that, though. Like, I was okay with it because that was like my safety net. Like, no one could hurt me, no one could touch me, no one could lay their hands on me in a horrible way. And I just remember being in those relationships that are just so unhealthy, and my last one especially, of like. And especially like the nightlife in Miami, right? Like I would try to go to sleep and like know he was out and he wasn't answering my calls, and I knew he would be drunk, and I'm like, he's not, and he wouldn't come home. That I'm just like, now I can go to sleep and I don't have to worry about anything else but like me getting a good night's sleep. And so I had missed that. Like I had missed getting a restful, good, solid night's sleep without waking up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and looking at my phone or him not being there and me going downstairs hoping he's on the couch. He's not even on the couch. I'm like, you know, so I was really content of not.
You were at peace.
I was at
because you
peace.
finally had found peace with
myself.
With not having to worry about somebody else and what they were doing and
Right.
everything. Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Did he cheat or
no, like I never
not that you know?
not that I know of. Like there were times that were they're like super inappropriate, like text messages, or like a girl would call him at 2 a.m. and I'd be like, well, why? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, either she's a crazy person or like you gave her that open door to think it's okay to call you at 2 a.m., you know? So, but I'm,
Yeah.
not that I know of.
Yeah. So after that relationship or after all these experiences, what have you unlearned from all these relationships?
I'm still unlearning. You know, it's so crazy because being by myself, I could unlearn things about myself, right? So, my work, for example, that was something that he always kind of like tore apart. So now when I'm working and I have that voice in my head of like, this is bad, you should do it this way, the client isn't gonna, like, I suffer from imposter syndrome. And so I kind of started to unlearn, you know, the voice, the negative voice was his for so long in my head because I had been with him for so long. I mean, not that 5 years is so long, but like a decent amount of time at our age.
That's long
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
And Doobie's like, for me, yeah.
That's really long, girl.
That's a commitment. So I just unlearned a lot of things that he said or did to belittle me. Because I always had to be less than. Like, I always had to be less than him. Couldn't be better than him. So I learned how to be big. Like, I learned to not stay small
love that.
anymore. Yeah.
He just wanted to have power over you by making
Oh,
you feel
for
small.
sure. Yeah. No, for sure.
Would you say you feel enough?
Right now?
Or not feel, do you believe you're enough?
For sure.
Now.
Yeah. Only, but again, If it were up to me, I would probably say no. But because I know who I am from God, I'm like, yes.
I love how that's been my answer, Andrea's answer,
Really?
and your answer.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, like by myself, I'm like, no, you can nitpick everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then I remember, like, I'm the daughter of a king, so
Yeah.
watch out.
I'm coming for you.
I love that.
So what's the dating scene looking like nowadays?
Oh my
girl?
goodness. So I am dating.
I love this story because I was there when
Should
it
I
happened.
tell the whole story?
I would
do.
love.
Oh my god, he's gonna get a kick out of it because he like swears.
He's
on the-
funny though.
He's so funny. I think
really
he's
funny.
really he's really funny.
And cute.
He's really
He's-
cute.
yeah.
Hey, you're really cute.
Hey.
Not hating on you, but you know you gotta
And
say
that's
it when
okay,
you see
Doobie.
it.
Yeah, you do.
Gotta
You
say it
gotta
when you
call
see
it
it.
out.
Also,
when
you
see
have
it.
really great taste because Annie is one of a kind. By the
Annie
way.
Oh, I
is
love you.
Bomb.com.
No, so we went to Charleston for one of our best friend Natalie's birthday.
I was there.
And, yeah.
I went there.
And I just saw like the guys there, and I'm like, I remember being like, Doobie, they're made different. Like they're actually tall, you know? Like the guys are like, I'm sorry, but like I'm over short king season. I love all the short.
Sorry.
Should we edit that out? I'm
No,
so
I
sorry.
love it. I love it.
we're
But
gonna
like,
leave.
anyway, I'm a good person, I swear.
Oh my goodness.
Your taste is just for tall men.
Well, which is so funny
Right.
because like at first he wasn't. But anyway, we'll get there. But so I don't know. I just felt I think it was because it was a girls' trip. I was like, let me make a hinge, and like I just want to,
Explore.
explore.
We were joking about
We
that.
were
but it was all a
joking.
game.
Yeah.
It was to be
It's
funny.
window shopping is what I call it. Literally. When you travel, you window shop.
Yes. So I went window shopping. And it's so funny because now on Hinge, or now, like as I know the app, I don't know the app at all, but you can leave, like, you can answer a question with a voice note.
Uh-huh.
And like, oh my God, give me someone's Hinge account with voice notes and I'll like rip you to shreds. Like, I love just listening to them, you know? And so I remember we were going out and I came across this guy's Hinge. And his Hinge sucked. I was like,
He has like dog pictures.
yeah, or like trucks and cars. And I was like, oh my God. But he answered the question, like, what's your worst dating experience?
Uh-huh.
With a voice note. So I remember perfectly, we were getting into the elevator and I'm like, you guys, this
remember that.
weirdo has a voice note answer. Let's make fun of him. So we listened to it and we're all like dead silent. And we were all like, we can't make fun of this one. Like his voice is so sexy. And the story, he's funny.
He's really funny.
So Doobie was cracking up.
I'm like, I like him.
Yeah.
He's
And
funny.
so she's like, you need to match with him. So I did. And we had great conversation, great banter. And then within like the first day, I'm like, by the way, I don't live here. Like I'm from Miami. And I remember he said something, he was like, oh, like, well, I'm going to have to make a good impression in a short amount of time. So I was like, okay, whatever. And we kept talking the whole trip. And it was, again, like I said, it was great conversation, good flowing conversation. And then when I left to go back to Miami, we texted the whole flight. And Doobie was like, you guys are still talking? Like, what are you talking about? And like, I don't know. But we like dove into such intentional conversation, like serious conversations, like religion. And how many kids do you want? And what are your triggers? And what's your past trauma? But it wasn't weird. It just flowed.
Yeah.
And I remember he told me, he's like, I was so done with dating because the dating scene was really bad for him there, I guess, too. And then we connected and he was like, you lied. Like, this is your fault, So fast forward, we just talked all day, every day. And I tried to self-sabotage like twice.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I'm like, this is stupid. We don't even live together. But then Doobie would remind me, like, pray about it.
Yeah.
And I would. And he's just so good at talking me through things. And so I went to, we didn't meet that first trip either. Like, we never met. So I
we
flew
never
back
met.
out. Yeah. Like, he invited us on the boat, but I'm like, no, I'm a girl's girl. Like, I'm not going to go meet a guy. And so I flew back out and met him. He took me on a date. And we just clicked. Like, it was just, he was like my best friend, which was so weird.
Yeah.
And then he came down to Miami for New Year's. And I was like, if you ever want to be my boyfriend, you have to ask me. And he's like, absolutely not. I'm 33 years old. Like, it's just, we're exclusive. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll never be your girlfriend. And so then for New Year's, he asked me, and I was like, oh my God, yes. So it's good. So we're dating. It's very new, very,
it's different, right?
It's different. And like, the long distance is hard, but I do appreciate it because I can still remain like independent. Yeah. I can get my own stuff done. Like, we're both very career driven, which I love. And so, he can focus on his career. I focus on my career. And then the times that we're together is great. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
He's completely different than...
He's so different. Like, my biggest thing I would tell Doobie, I'm like, he's not my type. And I would say it in a way of like, he's not my type, but I'm so attracted to him. Yeah. And I'm like, how does that make sense?
I'm happy it's not your type.
Right. Yeah, because my type doesn't work. Yeah.
Your type hadn't worked out for you for a reason.
Right, yeah. Right. And so I remember like, and the crazy thing too, Doobie, I'm just thinking about this, is Doobie for months was like, Annie, if you want a boyfriend, write your list. And I would never write it. Yeah. And she's like, write it down. I have my list. She's like, oh my God, I'm going to burp on cheese.
Go for it.
My Celsius. I never wrote it down. Yeah. And I realize now, like, I couldn't have because I didn't even know what my type was until I met Cameron. Shout out Cameron.
Hey, Cameron. It's almost just showing you that like God had your type for you, and if anything, it shows that you were trusting God to give you what you needed, not what you wanted.
Right.
Because that's where I'm at. I think I'm at the point where like I tried rewriting my list a year ago, and I was like, no. And then I tried dating this guy last summer. And I was trying to find my list because I was like, I want to know if he has all the things on my list.
Yeah, you like want to check everything.
I couldn't find that list anywhere. And I was like, I know it's in one of my journals. And I looked through all my journals and I was like, this has to be a sign that I shouldn't even look at that list because it's not even worth it.
Right.
And when everything ended, I was like, I need to just forget about that list that I have in my mind and my brain. So I feel like you learned how to trust God that he would deliver without you even making a request as to what you thought you wanted.
Which is so crazy, too, because I would always tell Doobie, and not saying I'm not being weird, Cameron, and saying he's my husband or anything, but, like, I always told Doobie, like, my husband's not in Miami. Yeah. You know? And now I'm dating, like, a cowboy.
And she would always say, like, oh, I'll probably meet someone in South Carolina or outside of Miami. But she would mention South Carolina, like, more than once. I'm like, you probably will.
It was, and then I remember, too, being like, if I, because I suffer from endometriosis. So I was like, God, I want to meet someone before I'm 30. 29, baby.
But I love it that it wasn't forced.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember early last year, I wrote a list and I'm like, okay, personality traits, because it's no longer about physical. I'm done. Like, I'm like, God, I mean, someone attractive, right? But
like you have, but that's the thing. It's like, I never thought I would be attracted to someone like someone who wasn't my type,
right?
Yeah, so, but I'm like the most attracted, So you're good.
Yeah, so I wrote a list, and I'm like, man, personality traits. I'm attracted to this and that, but I haven't updated that list. I'm like, I'm done with the list. Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna leave the list.
Yeah,
I'm gonna let it collect dust. Like, I don't know what's out there for me. So the fact that it's happening to you. And seeing you, like, doubting yourself so much at one point that you're like, I don't know if I can ever go on a date with... I remember you went to grab coffee with someone.
I did?
You did.
Oh, I remember.
And you're like, it feels nice that I'm actually able to have a conversation with someone from the opposite
but it wasn't
sex.
A date. It wasn't a date, but it was it was a guy. And...
but even that...
That I could go... Yeah. That I could go and hang out with a guy one-on-one. That was huge. Yeah.
And it wasn't even a
date, but he, he's a great guy. Love him. And I just remember being like, Doobie, I did it. Like, I was by myself with a guy.
Yeah.
And you weren't defensive, and you weren't
No.
thinking about what could possibly go
No.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it was your practice run.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was almost
That's
like God was
crazy.
telling you you're ready.
I know.
You hadn't gone out with a guy
In 2 years.
ever.
No, yeah, no.
Till
Since the
now.
breakup. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I remember being like, God, I don't want to date. Like, I don't want to play these games. I don't want to get ghosted. I
Mhm.
don't like.
Oh,
I'm
ghosted.
so
Just
yeah.
talking about
Like
getting ghosted.
no,
Mm-mm.
literally, like I don't want to do it. And one of the first things that Cameron said to me was like, if you're into the games, like we shouldn't talk. And
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
oh my
Woo!
God.
We love
Yes.
you.
Yes, we love you.
Yes.
I was like,
Wow.
yeah. So
Does he have any siblings? Or anything?
I know, right? Duby asks me that all the time.
Does he have a brother or
I
something?
know. Yeah.
Or cousin.
But right.
Cousin? Someone.
But
Yeah.
no, just come with me to South Carolina. He has friends, you know.
Who
You never
knows,
know.
right?
Who knows?
You never know.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we all move to South Carolina. But,
Wow.
What advice
yeah.
would you give a girl that was in your situation or in a relationship
Mm.
similar to the one that you were in?
And she's still in it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is so hard. I really don't think. I mean, I think first of all, the advice I would give the people in her life would be to just love on her, and be there for her, because it's so not black and white of just being able to leave. And you may want to like shake her, but there's something that has this hold over her, whether it's fear, whether it's uncertainty, whether it's threats, that she can't. Doobie, stop crying. You're going to make me cry.
I'm not crying.
Your eyes are so red. The advice that I would give her is no matter what, the little girl's still inside you. You know, you're that same girl. And if you have to hang up a picture of yourself when you're younger and put it on the mirror so you see her every single day, do it. Because that's how you're going to start to love yourself again.
Now that you say that, some people say, like, when people go through situations like that, when you see it from the outside looking in, some people say, like, why didn't you get out of it sooner? Like,
So
why
easy to
did you
judge.
stay? Oh,
Yeah.
but why did you stay? But you could have left at any point, any day. And so the fact that you say that, it gives me more understanding.
Yeah.
It gives us more understanding of, like, it's not that easy. It's not that easy.
And if you think about it too, like breakups, even if they're mutual, like they're not easy.
No,
like
they're not.
it's a big change, and change isn't easy. So then when you add manipulation, threats, fear to it, like it's not black and white. It is so gray. You're living in this gray area, this gray cloud. And I remember my dad told me, my dad is like, Annie, something so horrible is going to have to happen for you to get out. And sure enough, it did.
Sometimes that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hit rock bottom.
Yeah. And that was the hardest thing. I think I had to forgive myself first
Yeah.
before I could forgive him.
Yeah.
Because again, like I said, whether you're defending yourself, when you become something that you're so not, it's still, I would call Doobie and be like, but am I a bad person for doing this? And she's like, no, like you were defending yourself. And I think that was the hardest thing too, is forgiving myself, because it was so against my like DNA of who I am. So yeah.
You remind me of that verse on the Bible, Romans 12, because it's my verse. It's the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
I know that you've fought a lot of thoughts of, like what you said, like sometimes like his voice is there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily his voice, but things that he said, that it's like that. I know that you've questioned yourself a lot. There's times that you're about to face something so good that you're like, no. And you self-sabotage the whole thing.
Well, and that's the craziest thing, because even with Cameron, like he just called me out right there. He was like, I think you're self-sabotaging right now.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've had to, and I, you know, I'm in therapy, which has helped me so much. I started therapy again, and she told me something. She said, the reason why you self-sabotage is because you've been in this cycle of abuse for so long where things are so good, and then they drop to be horrible, and then you go through the I'm sorry phase, and then they're good again, and you know, that whole cycle. So you self-sabotage so that you're in control of the
Yeah.
bad.
Yes.
And I was like, wow.
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's something I've noticed that when we talk, you're like, I don't know what to do, Doobie, but it's like you question it because it's so good that you're scared.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're stepping into, you know, dating someone and being happy and finally being vulnerable with someone again,
Yeah.
that shows how much of a renewal of your mind you've had. Like
Yeah.
you've renewed your thoughts time and time
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And to have someone that's patient with you, I think that's important, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I
sure
like.
he's been
Yeah.
amazing.
No,
in
he's amazing.
understanding you. Because communication is everything at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's a huge communicator.
That's
Like, do we
amazing.
really have to communicate right now? And he's like,
Do we need
yes.
to talk about
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
So,
Is there
good.
anything else you want to say to anybody that may have just gotten out of the relationship that is going through a healing journey?
a healing journey. Again, it's what I told you. It's nonlinear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you may have a great day, and then the next day could be horrible, and you're in bed and you can't get out of bed. But like, that's okay.
Yeah.
And you have to give yourself grace. But the only thing I will say is, you got to, you know, keep putting one foot in front of the other. Surround yourself with good people. Find people who live a life that you want and surround yourself with them.
Yeah.
Seek out the Lord. He'll seek you out too. And just, you know, there were days about the renewing of your mind. There were days where I was just consumed with these negative thoughts. And Pastor Rich said, when you have that, just repeat in your mind over and over, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. And that helped me so much to just shut off the negative
Yeah.
and just repeat that. And
Yeah. Because it's the only thing that your brain is
right.
focused on,
Yeah.
is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and your thoughts lead you, you know, to where they are. So make sure you are in charge of them.
I love that, Annie. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having me.
I think
Yay,
it's definitely
finally.
something that's needed to be talked about
Yeah.
and stuff, you know. It's not common for women to speak up about when they've been through an abusive relationship and how they got out of it and how they seeked community and seeked God and all of that. And so it really, like, now I understand why Nebraska always said you need to hear her story and you need to see how strong and resilient you really are. And I hope that you listen to this podcast episode and that you also recognize your growth when you listen to it.
Oh my goodness. I hope I have a daughter and I can make her listen to it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's another thing too. It's like the choices we make as women are going to affect our kids too. And like who we end up with, like who's going to be the father of our kids, you know? So I think that we need to just be in charge of our choices and our stories.
Yeah. Do you have a song that you want to end this episode with? Nebraska probably didn't even like prep you for it.
Oh my God,
comes to
at
your mind.
all.
But a song that comes to your mind that of like when you were in that season of your life or that helped you get through it or something that you can like relate to that you feel.
Well, can it be like, I mean, it's kind of a sad song.
It's fine. Whatever song comes to your mind.
Okay, honestly, The Blessing.
Okay. I love that song.
That got me through
That's
and
not
through
a sad song.
and
It's
through.
a beautiful
No,
song.
it's such a hopeful song, but I didn't know if you wanted something like Lizzo. I don't know.
No, girl.
You know?
The Blessing is definitely good.
Anything you want, we want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Boo Boo. We love you.
I love you
guys
so much.
You're
I
my
love
favorite
you so much.
people. I hope
Hi.
you know that.
My favorite.
Bye. Hashtag Michael Noriega.
He keeps getting shout outs in all of our
Does
episodes.
he?
It's great.
Why don't I get any shout outs? Man, he's cooler
You got
than
one
me.
in one of them.
Yeah,
I did?
You did. You
Which
did.
one?
Don't worry about it.
Ay, pero why?
It's a surprise. You gotta listen to it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh my God, that was fun.